Red Zone Sports Bet. Wham, bam, thank you, Uncle Sam.
Welcome to this week's edition of Upping the Ante in association with RedZone.bet. I'm Richard Forrestal and I'm joined by our regular Cheltenham connoisseur Gavin Lynch. Gavin, we've been treated to some real spectacles over the last number of weeks with the fighting fifth hurdle at Newcastle, the Betfair Chase at Hilar, and this weekend another spectacular sight at Sandown with Undersow and Ante taking each other on. They may as well just call off Cheltenham at this stage.
Yeah, it was fantastic, wasn't it? It's one of the reasons why I get into racing is to see races like that. You know, you can keep your roaring line and Ables and Winks running around on the flat. I just think that race like that on Saturday are just what racing's all about. Yeah. I thought television couldn't get any better than Holly Willoughby on I Am a Celebrity, but I think Altior has to take the honours. Yeah,
it was spectacular, but a credit due to Undersow as well. I mean, for a 2 mile champion chaser, they often do it on the bridles. You know, they've so much cruising speed and pace. He does a lot of his good work off the bridle, as does Altior.
Undersow was brilliant. Yeah, he's rated 168. Like, for a horse that's turning 11 next month, it was a great performance. Now, he did get the ground that he loves so much, the soft ground, and Altior had to prove himself yet again, the champion that he is, to come past Undersow. But Altior, I just pray to give him a rating of more than what he has at the moment. Like, he's rated, I think, 175 before Saturday. I think he's way better than that. If you look at horses that have ran over the last, say, 20 years, Sprinter Sacre 188, Moscow Flyer 180, Mastermind got 186, but even horse like Azerti up 178 and Well Chief 178. I just think Altior definitely deserves 180. He's 15 for 15, 10 over 10, 10 out of 10 over fences. The smallest margin of victory over fences is 3 lengths. Like, he just does it every single time. I think he's got way more in hand than people think. I think maybe because he doesn't travel brilliant. I think punters love horses that travel great, like Sprinter Sacre used to do down to the second last. And there's been times where Altior in the races, like last year in the Champion Chase, you thought he was in trouble, and he doesn't swing off the bridle through the race, but the last furlong every time he just wins easy. His smallest margin of victory, as I said, is 3 lengths. So to me, he's never been in danger of being beaten yet.
Yeah, he reminds you a little bit of Viking Flagship that way. I know maybe not physically, but the way he races, as I say, he does as much off the bridle as he does on it.
He does, and he just has an attitude that he wants to win. Like, there's some horses that we back day in, day out, and they kind of want to win, but he's like Hurricane Fly. He just, I'd say he'd bite you to beat you.
Yeah, and credit again due to Undersow for his part in that. We're going to take a look at the Champion Chase market, the Queen Mother Champion Chase market. It's very one-sided at the moment. It's hard to see what's going to challenge him when you look at Min probably going down the Ryanair route. Greatfield fell at Cork in the Hilar Chase early on. I always thought when Greatfield was going to go, it was going to be spectacular, and I thought it would have happened sooner than it has, and he was unfortunate. He just took the fence in his stride and he crumbled on landing, which was a pity for him. But So Royal disappointed at the weekend, St Calvados did. Footpad, I suppose, is the one. You'd like to think you could draw a line through his Nace run. He's surely better than that.
Yeah.
And at 5 to 1, maybe he'd be a sensible option as a saver or something, but he's going to be hard to stop, isn't he?
Yeah, Altior, I mean, RedZone.bet are the top price at 8 to 11. I'd imagine there's going to be very, very few runners. I don't know what the smallest field ever in the Champion Chase is, but I'd say this year is going to be quite small. As you say, some of those are going to go to, for example, Min will probably go to the Ryanair. Again, Greatfield, he jumped the fence perfect, but as you said, just knuckled on landing. You'd imagine that they just won't beat Altior. He's going to maybe struggle for a stride or two coming down the hill if something was travelling better than him out in front, but when they turn for home, they jump 2 out, you'll hear the crowd, and he'll just win 6 lengths, won't he?
Yeah, you're getting very carried away now. What about Footpad? I mean, how you look at him last year, in hindsight, probably not the most outstanding bunch of novices, but he beat them all doing handstands. Where are you with him?
You'd have to see him again the next day. Obviously, things didn't go well from at all at Nace. The one thing about the Arca last year is the front 2 did go way too quick. He sat off them and then came through when they were exhausted. You'd have to see, maybe he'll go perhaps at Christmas, but Willie's on about separating all his horses. Those 3 that are his there, keeping them in different races. So I'd say Footpad will probably end up here, and then Willie might run, say, Min and Undersow in the Ryanair, I'd say.
Does he have any appeal for you at 5 to 1?
If you wanted to get close to the time where it was non-runner, no bet, you were getting an each-way price, maybe, but I just cannot see Altior getting beat.
Okay. And what about the Hilly Way winner, Castle Grace Paddy? He's not mentioned on their 33s for the Champion Chase. He's an unexposed sort of horse, obviously. Probably likes to cut in the ground, but at the same time, he's got improvement in him.
Yeah, sure. He's after winning the Grade 2. He's had very, very few runs. he got beat badly at Punchestown with just things didn't go his way. The trainer was saying that he's a better horse this year, and it looks that way. So he likes maybe a gap between his races. He could end up maybe a 20-1 shot in the day and run into third or fourth if things fell his way in the day, but he certainly won't. I wouldn't imagine he'd get near the top 2 in that.
Okay, we're just going to go over to Kane Calvin now of RedZone.bet. They are 8-11 with on Altior, so they're taking a chance on him. Kane, how big a loser is he for you at this stage?
So yeah, we're 8-11 Altior and we've taken a few bets on him, but nothing that frightens us too much really. We're already seeing the multiples come in though with the likes of Bouvedere and Apple's Jades. But again, the big question mark of Altior is what will run against him, and if he stays fit really. He'll definitely prove to be popular, but at this time of year and at this price, there are enough doubts that we're happy to lay him.
Happy to lay him. Brave enough at that adventure. Gavin, I think you thought they were a charitable company rather than a bookmaking organisation, because you were looking for even better, weren't you?
Yeah, I was trying to tip them up today to get everybody who has a Red Zone account even money, including myself, but Red Zone weren't biting. They said that they're already top price, so they weren't willing to go any better than that, so that's a pity.
Yeah, don't blame them. So we'll go from there on to the Ryanair Chase. Obviously, we had a lot of pointers there at the weekend as well, including Undesau, of course, who ran so well. You'd imagine the Ryanair would be the obvious follow-on for him come March again. We had the John Durkin. We didn't have Presenting Percy. It struck me that Punchestown, they were crowned racecourse of the year last week at the HRI Awards. They were unfortunate enough to miss out on the champion hurdle favourite in Samcro and also the Gold Cup favourite in Presenting Percy due to the ground, which is unusual at this time of the year.
Yes. But
we've also got Min in there. Balco de Flo it ran well in fairness in defeat. How do you look at that at this stage?
I suppose the betting is kind of right. There's another horse there that I think is overpriced. Is Politolog. Politolog is, I think, 12-1, 14-1 bar. He beat Min at level weights at Aintree. It was a fantastic race, a great finish. He got up to beat him by a neck. He since has beaten Charbel, given it £6 in Ascot. Charbel came out, I know you like Charbel, that came out yesterday in Huntington and absolutely bolted up. So I just can't see why Politolog shouldn't be maybe a 6, 7, 8-1 shot.
Yeah, I like the look of Charbel yesterday. In fairness, Noel Feely gave him a great ride as well. He rode him with so much authority. I think that helped the horse. He jumped really well.
He did.
And when you look at he beat Baron Alco at Chepstow as well. He's run well twice at Cheltenham. I know he's fallen, but if you had someone like Noel up on him, you'd have a little bit of confidence in him getting around there at least. As you say, went close to Politolog as well. So, but look, obviously Min was the one who probably stole the show. We thought we were missing a star, and he goes and does it again. He has a habit of doing this. He doesn't tend to back it up sometimes, but he's an extremely good horse on his day, isn't he?
He is, and it was great to watch yesterday, and it was great to hear Ruby afterwards giving admiration for Jack Kennedy, but coming to the second last that Jack kept him in, and Min had to go down the inside, just about found room at the second last, won quite well. And it's also worth mentioning that Balco de Flo, who was last year's Ryanair champion, ran very, very badly at the North, but he's on his way back.
Redeemed himself.
Yeah, it was a far better performance. I'd imagine Shattered Love will end up maybe in a Gold Cup because she looks like she needs further. She'd have a little squeak in that if the ground came up soft. Undesau would want soft ground as well for that race, but the two I'd like in that race at the moment would be Min and Politolog.
Would you fancy Shattered Love in a Gold Cup as a matter of interest?
If the ground came up very, very soft, it came up soft last year in the JLT and she looked a different animal on it, so she'd have a little squeak if it was soft, yeah. Do
you think there'll be a temptation for them to go this route with footpad, or will they stick to the 2 mile route?
I'd imagine they'll maybe stick to the 2 mile route for the moment, but he'd obviously want to win impressively the next day.
Okay, so we're going to go back to Kane Calvin now at RedZone.bet. Kane, are you willing to take Min on in the Ryanair?
So to be honest, we're trying to stay very middle of the road in the Ryanair this year. It's very difficult to know what is actually going to turn up. And with Mullins having 3 of the favourites in footpad, Min and Undesau, he's going to have a massive say in the race. And then if we look at Min, on Sunday he beat 3 of last year's festival winners, and then has been runner-up at big races at Cheltenham and Aintree before that, so he commands a lot of respect.
Yeah, he certainly does command a lot of respect. Another Willie Mullins, Rich Ritchie and Ruby Walsh horse that commands a lot of respect is Get a Bird. Gavin, if you had that team with a horse making a sensational chase in debut at Punchestown like Get a Bird did on Sunday, you'd be thinking he might be 9-2 or 4-1 for an Arkle. This guy has gone in at 11-1, presumably on the basis that Cheltenham might not play to his strengths. He seems to need to go right-handed to be at his best. What did you think of yesterday's performance?
Firstly, it was a very, very good performance. He was down the inside. He jumped quite straight for him. The only one he jumped to the right, if you saw the head on at the last jump, he did jump the last one to the right.
Ruby also said there was one he landed at out in the country very much right as well.
It's hard to judge sometimes with the camera angles, yeah. I wouldn't back him at 20s. That's just my own opinion in this race. I think he's a brilliant horse, though. That bookmaker should nearly go non-run or no bet for him for the Arkle. It'll be interesting to see if he shows up there. He's going to go to Limerick next. I'd imagine they'll bypass Cheltenham, go to what was the Powers Gold Cup, now the Ryanair Gold Cup.
And there's the Limerick race at
the Limerick
Christmas,
race now is a grade 1 at Christmas, and it's 2 mile 3 or 2 mile 4, which I think he's a horse that'll want a bit of a trip in time.
I'm trying to agree. Yeah.
And I'd love to see him, if he does do well this season, I'd love to see him coming back earlier than normal for Willie Mullins' horse. Go to Down Royal for the, the second season novice over 2.5, and maybe onto a King George. That's what I'd love to see him do.
There's been a bit of movement in this race in the last week or so. Kalashnikov did it well at Plumpton. Dynamite Dollars obviously at the weekend at Sandown. Defi Josiah at Exeter. Lawler, unfortunately from your point of view, got beat. He was one of yours originally. A lot of movement there at the moment.
There is, yeah. The market's certainly starting to form. Kalashnikov was very good, as you mentioned. Lawler was very, very disappointing. Went off 8 to 11, so most people think it was going to win in Sandown. All its best runs have ever been left-handed. Aintree, Cheltenham, goodish ground. There's small excuses there because it did beat Dynamite Dollars previously by 7 lengths at Cheltenham. So you'd be hoping that if he goes back left-handed and good ground, he'd have a chance. But obviously, it was a very disappointing run. Kalashnikov definitely deserves to be favoured. Megley Khan, everybody can't forget, I suppose, what happened last Christmas, going out through the wing. Davy Russell rode him in Punchestown in the middle of every fence, whether that was deliberate or not. You'd have to see him a couple of more times.
He's definitely a quirky type of individual.
Yeah, just if you can fully trust him, it's hard to know, but the right favourite is Kalashnikov.
We're probably lacking a real star hurdler going chasing here, aren't we? I mean, Kalashnikov obviously ran well in the Supreme last year. Possibly needs soft ground to be at his best, does he? Or is that unfair on him?
Possibly, yeah. His best form was on soft ground last season. Over hurdles, he mentioned even on the day in the Supreme, the ground was quite soft. So if the ground came up good, generally the Arkle obviously is the second race of the meeting. So generally the first day there's a little bit of give in the ground anyway.
If you were to have one of them now, as David Jennings would say, if I gave you a free tenner, where is it going? Seeing as Lawler,
I'd have to see Lawler again going left-handed to jump back into his camp. But I think Kalashnikov deserves to be favoured at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. And it's been, as we say, a great week in general, good weekends racing. There was a few more that caught your eye. We had Tornado Flyer yesterday as well, of course, the Ballymore contender. What stood out for you over the last few days?
Actually, there was a horse there on that list called Defi Desai who won very well in Exeter. It was a fantastic race.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen top of the game, kind of jink at the start. It lost 15, 20 lengths. It was only beaten 3 lengths at the end. Black Up also ran that race. That was a cracking race. You also had things that won last week. Mr. Whipped won on Wednesday. Scarpetta won a poor race in Clonmel. He might end up in a handicap maybe at Cheltenham. Build Me Up Buttercup was a nice mare that won on Saturday in Navan for Willie. She travelled like the winner the whole way round. She tied up in front, so I'd say they'll hold her up a bit longer next time, but she could end up in the mare's novice hurdle. Chris's Dream was quite taking, jumped very well. It just shows the class of Robbie Power, the way he presents the horse to a fence.
Did it with a lot of authority, didn't he? Just went out and got on with it and jumped and galloped.
To watch Robbie on the chasers is just fantastic. Beating Gundigger by 3 lengths is not good enough to win a Cheltenham or anything, but still he did it quite well. Chica Buena won a juvenile hurdle at Aintree by 23 lengths on Saturday, and there was another juvenile on Thursday in Market Racing called Adjali, won by 13 lengths from a decent horse at Dan Skelton's, and that's now 10 to 1 favour for the Triumph Hurdle. So
I thought we weren't allowed to talk about Triumph Hurdle horses until February, Gavin.
Yeah, I don't like the Triumph Hurdle, but I just had to mention that won and is now favourite. There's a chap called Anthony Wheelahan who watches us every week from Australia, and he said to mention a horse called 2 for Gold. He thinks that's going to be a nice horse. Kim Bailey trains at a 1 in Weatherby on Saturday over 2.5. Another horse to mention yesterday in Cork was Come to Me. It won a maiden hurdle very, very easily by 20 lengths in the end. Presented well, fell 2 out, but he still Come to Me was definitely going to win the race, so he's worth a mention. And as we said, Tornado Flyer, he won the maiden hurdle over 2.5. I'd say he'll be better if he goes the other way around left-handed, because he'd jump a little bit to his left, but he's now in second favourite for the Ballymore, and he did win the champion bumper Punchestown, so he'd have to have a chance. Yeah,
Willie seemed to suggest he could go back and trip. I'm not sure, looking at it visually, you thought I certainly thought maybe 2.5 would be the minimum for him.
Yeah, he did say that, and then a minute later he said he's probably going to go to the Lawlers of Naas Grade 1 in January, that next destination won last year. That's 2.5, so I'd say he'd be favoured for that.
Yeah, and when you think you got Blackbow finished second to him in Punchestown, and you've got the likes of Next Destination and so many more of Willie still to come, it's frightening to think what he could do over the next few
Yeah, I'd
weeks.
say he's got a lot of horses to come out, yeah.
And just looking ahead to this weekend, I know one of your favourite horses, Tiger Roll, is out on Friday in the cross country. We're also hopefully going to get Lorena and Armelin in the international hurdle on Saturday. We don't have those entries at the moment, but hopefully one or two of them will turn up there. What are you looking forward to?
I'm just going to leave Tiger Roll till March. I think that all roads lead to March. So if
It's going to be hard for him.
I think if it does run Friday, I'll just won't have a bet and just let it win. If it wins, fine. But it's a handicap again, carrying top weight. I think it's given 10 or 11 pounds to end the Bulger's horse again. So I'll watch that. But the international hurdle will be interesting if Lorena shows up. That'll be great to see her again.
Do you see her as a champion hurdle mare?
She'd have to for the moment. Yeah, she was very, very impressive last year. Yeah. So
hard to know though in terms of form what she beat ultimately. She's going to be stepping into open company this year. It's going to be, as we saw with Sam Crow, it's a big gap to bridge.
It is possible, as any power showed. Getting the £7 is a huge allowance, but obviously, you know, she's a long way to go to get near Nicky's horse.
Okay, be nice to see her over a fence someday.
It would. She's a
fabulous
big mare,
specimen.
yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to some of our Twitter questions. We'll share these between us, Gavin. Danny Tomlin 2 is wondering, will Min run in the Ryanair, and what do you make of Politilog chances after Charable franked the form on Sunday? We've kind of answered that already, I suppose.
I think the two of them have a great chance, Min and Politilog. They're the two I'd be concentrating on in the Ryanair at the moment.
Yeah, and on that I'd say if you like Politilog, then maybe Charable is a bit of value, depending, obviously he might not go there, but certainly he's got a big engine. And Rob Turner was asked what race was he most unsure of, and his response was the JLT and the RSA. He says he's not sure which one of them top of the game wins.
So he fancies it. Look, it ran a cracker the other day. You have to remember it was second last year in the Coral Cup off 150.
Yeah,
so
that's a fair performance in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
And it also had won previously in Sandown over 3 miles in soft ground, so it has the gears for 2.5 and it can stay 3 miles. So it's very hard to say which race. He's roughly the same price for both at the moment, but if you go look at the race again in Exeter, geez, it ran a cracker.
Yeah. He has the cut of a Paul Nichols staying chaser, doesn't he, rather than a JLT horse. Maybe you'd imagine he's going to progress over further.
Maybe we'll go for the RSA if that's the case, yeah. He's a good horse.
Good horse, yeah. And John Ammer on Facebook is wondering, what about Santini for the RSA? Again, this guy's a fabulous animal. He was only beaten once in the Albert Bartlett last year by Kilbrick and Storm. Very impressive at Newbury.
Yeah, that was a grade 2. So to win a grade 2 first time was very impressive. And again, as I mentioned last week, he's had very, very few runs, so he's open to huge improvement. So again, he's probably deserves to be favoured for the RSA, which he is. Yeah,
you couldn't put anyone off him.
No.
So we'll move on to this week's tips, the highlight of the show, of course, in association with RedZone.bet, who like to give us enhanced odds for these. Gavin, you're up first this week. Okay. You're going to go with Penhill, who is generally a 6-1 shot, but because of the enhancement, RedZone.bet are going to give us 8-1. Tell us about this one, Gavin.
Yeah, Penhill, you know the old expression, horses for courses.
Yeah.
The secret to him seems to be a break and go to Cheltenham on the new course. He won, his jumping over 2 miles wasn't fantastic. He's loads of gears because he was rated 100 on the flat, but his jumping over 2 miles was just a little bit sticky. So Willie stepped him up and trip to 3 miles at Limerick at Christmas 2 years ago, and he won quite well. Then he got a break to Cheltenham and he won the Bartlett very easily. And then he came back, didn't run, he ran a Punchestown, got beaten, and then didn't run until Cheltenham last year in 2018. And to me, he won the stairs quite well. He won it by 2 lengths from Super Sunday, so it was a very, very good race. Paul gets on very, very well with the horse. And then he came back to Punchestown and got beat again by Faheen. So I just think that, you know, the way, if he goes to Cheltenham after a break, I think that the new track really suits him because there's only 2 flights in the last 7.5 furlongs. Yeah. He's got loads of toll. Paul rides him very, very well, brings him wide. I think he definitely deserves to be favoured because it's on that track and that's his favourite track. What about this Mare?
Gordon Elliott said fairly categorically last week that she wouldn't be going for the champion. Yeah. The implication was if they were to go anywhere other than the Mare's race, it would be for the Stayers hurdle. She'd be a hell of a proposition over 3 miles in that, wouldn't she?
She'd be a big danger, but I'd be 90% sure she'll go for the Mare's hurdle. You know, he's often said, Gordon, that you go for the race that you have the best chance of winning. So I just don't see Super Sunday turning on the form. I don't see Lammy Surge. Thistlecrack could be a danger, but sure, he's probably going to stay chasing. Faheen will be a danger, but he's not getting any younger. It'll be interesting, the jockey arrangements on the day. I'd imagine maybe if they showed up, Ruby might be on Faheen But if Paul is on Pen Hill, that I wouldn't mind, because Paul gets on very well with the horse. And he's given him 2 super rides in the Bartlett and in last year's Stayers. So if we don't see him till March, I think that'll be a help as well.
Okay, it'll be interesting. And we move on to my selection, which is Next Destination. Again, one of the horses that we have yet to see from Willie Mullen's stable for the RSA Chase. I thought this horse was very good last year. He was 4 from 5 over hurdles. His only defeat came in the Ballymore behind Samcro, of course, and Black Op. Things didn't necessarily go to plan for him during the race. I'm not saying he'd have won it, but he'd have certainly probably been a better third or maybe even second, I'd like to think. Obviously, Samcro would have been hard to beat on the day, but he's a horse that jumped hurdles very well. He stays. He won over 3 miles at Punchestown. He travels well. And when you look, obviously, at Samcro, you might question the form, but Samcro was making the big jump up to Open Company. This guy is going to be taking on a similar level of horse. And I just think he's a very exciting chasing prospect for the coming season. Santini is obviously, you know, a serious animal. Delta Work won the Drinmore top of the game. We've discussed Black Op. They're all good horses, but I just think Next Destination, especially at 11-1, is a horse I'd like to be keeping on side at this stage. What do you think?
Yeah, he'd have a great chance. He looks like he's Willie's number 1 at the moment for the race, which is always a help. There was only a neck between Next Destination and Delta Work at Punchestown, so you know, he has very, very good form. He was definitely staying on best in the Ballymore. He was flashing home in the end, so definitely the 3 miles is what he's crying out for. Yeah, he'd have a good chance.
Fingers crossed. So that's it for this week's Up in the Ante in association with RedZone.bet. Thanks for joining us, and may the odds be ever in your favour. See you next week.
RedZone Sports.bet. Wham, bam, thank you, Uncle Sam.